week on Worldwide Gaming, I review Tales from Space, Mutant Blobs Attack. We look at the top 10 Australian games. Vince interviews the developers of the crew at E3 2014. And your first look at Tokyo Game Show 2014. Hello and welcome to Worldwide Gaming. I'm your host Ryan.
I'm Vince.
And I'm John.
And today we have not one, but we have two interviews from E3. One's about racing vehicles, the other's about blowing them up.
Yes.
You played the crew at E3 in this giant, weird simulator.
It was the most advanced one that I've ever sat in and pretty much seen. It was very disorientating because you're driving along and it's actually bouncing you up and down and around. And at one point I went over a jump and I actually felt like I was suspended in air, and I landed and I got out and I was falling over.
What do you think of World of Warships?
I really like it. I think it's really cool. I think I might stick with World of Tanks for now until I see a little bit more about World of Warships. I'm not fully convinced yet.
All right, but right now we have the forecast.
Bayonetta developer Platinum Games is bringing us the Xbox One exclusive, Scalebound. With the barometer reading -1, we think it might be best to miss this one. The weather in Albion is looking asymmetric in the latest Fable game, Fable Legends. Coming to Xbox One soon, the game is still in early stages. We've given it a 0 as we think it could go either way.
Never send a man to do a lady's work.
Time for some surprises.
Let's get serious.
We live as one. We die as one.
Creative clouds are overhead in the upcoming Little Big Planet 3 for PS3 and PS4. We think this will be a great game for younger players. We give it a 1.
So the Fable series has always been one that's never been on my radar really, but you've played it at E3, John, right?
Yeah, I played Fable Legends. It seems interesting, and I'm actually glad that I lost, because I played as one of the 4 heroes against the villain, and we lost. Because one of my biggest worries was that it would be too easy for the heroes to win, and it's actually not. The villain's got a lot of abilities that he can just throw at you, and if you don't have any team play abilities like me and 3 strangers had, you're done.
Right now, though, we have my review of Mutant Blobs Attack. Tales from Space Mutant Blobs Attack is a textbook example of why having a lot of references to internet culture and games inside of a game is generally a bad idea. Recently released on PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, after only being released on the PS Vita and PC in 2012, the game feels very dated in terms of visual gags, and a lot of the jokes just don't seem funny anymore, if they ever were. Couple that with gameplay that seems very derivative of the Katamari games, just in a less fun 2 dimensions, and even with the discounted price, I'm not sure that this game is worth your time. In Mutant Blobs Attack, you play as a blob who has escaped from the Humane Blob Torture Research Center, and is hellbent on taking revenge on the human race for all the experiments done to it. Starting in a college dorm, you must absorb objects until you are large enough to progress through the levels, which take you anywhere from army bases to outer space where you eventually plan to absorb the entire Earth, eradicating all life. There isn't much story here apart from a few cutscenes in the game, but at least the act of progressing through the levels shows you enough for you to follow along with what's happening.
Bah ouais,
In most of the levels, you need to explore your surroundings and absorb enough materials to get through an obstacle that's blocking your path. Anything from screws to hamburgers to full-size cows help you grow into an unstoppable force and allow you to progress. Most of these items require that you solve some kind of puzzle to get to them, however, and throughout the game you will unlock different abilities to help you solve them. You have the power of telekinesis to let you control certain platforms, magnetism so you can be attracted to or repelled from certain metallic surfaces, and there's also a lot of physics-based puzzles. The telekinesis powers are quite hard to control when you have multiple platforms in the same room and need to switch between them frequently, or when you need to rotate certain platforms. But luckily most of the time there isn't a time limit, so you can always take your time. The game starts off really easy and gets progressively harder, but never hard enough that getting a gold ranking by absorbing most of the objects in a level is very difficult. Usually it isn't the puzzles themselves that will give you the problems in Mutant Blobs Attack though. Being a gelatinous blob, you can understand why some of the movement in this game can feel a little clunky, but it makes some of the puzzles pretty frustrating, especially when trying to maneuver around lasers that will kill you in one hit. There is also times when you need to navigate the levels in a rocket mode, which can feel floaty and even harder to control than the regular mode. In some worlds there will be a special mini level which plays completely different than the main game. These levels are actually top down, and although you still absorb objects in the same way as normal, you won't have any of your regular powers or abilities. These feel really out of place and verge on feeling like padding to extend the length of the game, which is still only around 3 to 3.5 hours long. The visuals themselves are actually really nice to look at. Humans are really cartoon-like with exaggerated facial features, and the intro movie is fantastic, with a nod to old spy movies using lots of contrast and a jazzy soundtrack. Objects in the world, however, lack the same style, with lazy references to memes and renamed objects with no real jokes, like the popular beer logo replaced with hipster juice, or the large amounts of posters on walls and billboards that reference lolcats. Since the version was released over 2 years after the original, I think they could have updated these billboards to be a little bit more relevant, or at least not so time sensitive. Even though Tales from Space Mutant Blobs Attack is priced lower than most small-scale games, it's still hard to recommend. I didn't find the gameplay that interesting, a lot of the graphics of objects made me cringe that thought that these were ever funny, even in 2012, and the game is incredibly short. There are leaderboards that rank you against everyone in the world, giving you bonus points for completing levels quickly, adding some replayability, but even then I would steer clear of this game.
I'm a one! Hey guys, enjoying the show? Check us out on Facebook to keep up with the latest gaming news and to see what the WG crew is actually up to. Check us out on YouTube to see all of our past episodes, extended cuts, and the also so funny blooper reel. Stay tuned.